It was supposed to be a quiet Wednesday evening in my small Los Angeles apartment. After an exhausting 12-hour shift at the police academy, all I wanted was to find an email from my instructor about scheduling changes for our upcoming firearms training. As I scrolled through my inbox, my eyes landed on something unexpected, a Gmail account that wasn't mine. My stepmother had forgotten to log out. It wasn't unusual. She occasionally used my laptop when I was away. At first, I thought nothing of it. I was too tired to care. But then a single phrase caught my attention. Our step-parents. Curiosity got the better of me. What was she doing on a subreddit like that? I assumed it was a forum for parenting advice or maybe a place to vent about household chores. Instead, what I found felt like stepping into a nightmare. The screen filled with venom. Post after post, comment after comment, each one more toxic than the last. My breath hitched as I realized the subject of her hatred. Me, my siblings, even my biological mother. She criticized everything, my choices, my lifestyle, even the way I hug my father. She twisted our lives into grotesque fiction, painting herself as a long-suffering victim while portraying us as ungrateful burdens. One comment sent a chill through me. I can't wait until they turn 18 and leave. Then it'll be just me, my husband, and our toddler. No more noise. No more drama. Another mocked my 16-year-old deaf sister. Learning sign language is such a waste of time. When she's old enough, I'll kick her out anyway. My stomach lurched. I wanted to believe this was some cruel joke, a misunderstanding. But the deeper I dug, the more I realized a horrifying truth. This wasn't an isolated rant. It was years of malice, spread across hundreds of posts. A carefully curated narrative designed to validate her resentment. How could someone who smiled at me across the dinner table, who posed happily in family photos, secretly despise her so much? Just last month, she insisted on taking a Christmas picture together, claiming she wanted to capture the joy of our blended family. And yet here she was, hiding behind a screen, spitting venom about the very people she pretended to love. Tears blurred my vision as I scrolled through more of her words, each one another knife in my back. The moments I once saw as minor slights, the way she never made an effort to bond with us, the way she refused to learn sign language from my sister, the way she kept me at arm's length from her child, now carried a sinister weight. She never wanted us. We were intruders in her perfect world. And then I found something worse. A thread where she slandered me, twisting innocent moments into something vile. She described my closeness with my father, hugs after a long day, napping together during family movie nights, as unnatural. People in the comments chimed in, their words dripping with filth, twisting my love for my dad into something disgusting. Maybe you should set boundaries before things get weird. I recoiled in horror. My stomach churned. How could she? How could anyone? The deeper I went, the darker it got. Old posts, dating back years, revealed a woman I never truly knew. She called my mother manipulative, inventing arguments that never happened. She painted my father as weak, easily controlled by his ex-wife, implying that he needed to be saved. From us. Had she been poisoning him against us all along? Was this why she fought to keep him from spending holidays with us? Was this why she discouraged him from visiting when we needed him most? I sat there, numb, my hands trembling as I shut the laptop. The betrayal was suffocating. For 5 years, I believed she cared. I helped pay bills, cooked meals, shared clothes, supported her through tough times. And none of it mattered. We weren't family to her. We were obstacles. A horrifying realization settled over me. She didn't just resent us. She wanted us gone. And if she had the chance, she would erase us from my father's life completely. The confrontation happened on a cold November evening. The air was thick with tension as I walked into my father's house in Santa Monica, printed screenshots clutched in my shaking hands. My heartbeat pounded against my ribs, drowning out the quiet tick of the living room clock. There was no turning back now. I asked to speak with her alone first. A part of me, some desperate, foolish part, wanted to believe she would have an explanation, that there was something, anything, that could make this hurt less. She sat across from me, her expression wary. "What's this about?" she asked coolly, but her eyes flickered with something else when she saw the stack of papers in my grip. Without a word, I handed them to her. The color drained from her face as she skimmed the pages. But when she finally spoke, it wasn't with remorse. This is just a place where I vent my personal feelings. You can't judge me for something private. Her words hit me like a slap. Private? My voice shook with rage. You call slandering us, mocking my sister, and fantasizing about kicking us out of our own lives private. She pursed her lips. You don't understand. Step-parenting is hard. I let out a bitter laugh. Hard? Hard is learning that someone you trusted has spent years vilifying your family to strangers. Hard is reading that you think my sister is a waste of time. Hard is knowing that the woman who insisted on taking Christmas photos with us was secretly counting down the days until we left. She crossed her arms. You're overreacting. The audacity. Overreacting. My voice cracked. You lied about us. You hated us. You want us gone. Silence stretched between us, heavy and suffocating. She looked away first, her jaw tightening. And in that moment, I knew she wasn't sorry. She never would be. I stood, my hands clenched into fists. I'm telling Dad. Her eyes snapped back to mine, fear flashing across her face for the first time. She opened her mouth, but I was already walking away, my heart hammering with a single, terrifying certainty. Nothing would ever be the same again. The evening was supposed to be quiet, just another weary Wednesday in my small Los Angeles apartment. I had just returned from an exhausting 12-hour shift at the police academy, every muscle in my body aching from the relentless drills. All I wanted was to find an important email from my instructor regarding changes to our upcoming firearms training. As I scrolled through my inbox, my eyes snagged on something that didn't belong, an unfamiliar email sitting in the middle of my own messages. It wasn't mine. My stepmother, who sometimes borrowed my laptop, had forgotten to log out of her Gmail account. At first, I thought little of it. Exhaustion clouded my mind, and I was moments from shutting everything down when something caught my eye, a single phrase that sent a jolt through my system. Our step-parents. Curiosity stirred. What could she possibly be doing on a subreddit like that? I clicked the link, half expecting some mundane discussion about parenting advice, maybe complaints about household chores. Instead, what I found felt like stepping into a nightmare. The screen filled with venom, post after post, comment after comment, dripping with disdain so raw and personal that my stomach twisted in knots. And then I saw it, her words, hateful, deceptive, malicious. She wasn't just venting about step-parenting struggles. She was talking about us, about me, my siblings, my mother. She ridiculed my choices, my lifestyle, even the way I hugged my father. She painted herself as a long-suffering victim, a noble martyr trapped in a house full of ungrateful burdens. And us? We were portrayed as parasites, nuisances that she could hardly wait to be rid of. I can't wait until they turn 18 and leave. Then it'll just be me, my husband, and our toddler. No more noise. No more drama. A lump formed in my throat as I scrolled further. My breath hitched when I saw what she had written about my younger sister, my 16-year-old deaf sister. Learning sign language is such a waste of time. When she's old enough, I'll kick her out anyway. A cold shiver ran through me. My sister, who spent years fighting against the feeling of being an outsider in her own family. My sister, who had tried, time and time again, to teach my stepmother even the basics of ASL, believing it was just too difficult for her to pick up. But now, I knew the truth. It had never been about difficulty. She had simply never cared enough to learn. A sick feeling clawed at my stomach as I kept reading. The deeper I delved, the worse it became. This wasn't just bitterness. It was deliberate cruelty. The most gut-wrenching discovery came when I stumbled upon a thread where she twisted the most innocent moments between my father and me into something grotesque. She spoke of how I hugged him after long days, how I napped beside him during family movie nights, how I cherished my time with him. She had turned these into something dirty, something unnatural. Maybe you should set boundaries before things get weird, one commenter had written. Others chimed in, twisting and distorting the truth until I could hardly recognize my own life in their words. I felt sick. My hands trembled as I continued scrolling, discovering older posts, some dating back years. In one, She spoke of my biological mother, calling her a troublesome woman, a manipulative presence. Lies, fabrications, carefully crafted stories designed to drive a wedge between my parents and keep my father from seeing the truth. Had this been her plan all along? Had she always been working to isolate us? The betrayal was suffocating. For years, I had believed she cared about us. I had confided in her, shared my struggles, my hopes, my fears. I had cooked meals for her, helped with bills, babysat her child. And yet, to her, we were nothing. As I stared at the screen, tears blurred my vision. How could someone who smiled at us across the dinner table harbor so much hatred? That night, the confrontation was inevitable. When I finally gathered the courage to face her, she tried to dismiss it all, claiming that Reddit was merely an escape, that she was just venting, that none of it meant anything. I wasn't buying it. Every excuse rang hollow. Every justification felt more absurd than the last. And when I told her that my mother and siblings already knew, that we were going to show everything to my father, her composure shattered. For the first time, I saw it. Faye! She stormed off, locking herself in the bedroom, refusing to talk further. When my father arrived home that night, the weight in the air was unbearable. At first, he didn't believe me. He thought it was a mistake, an exaggeration. But then I handed him the printed screenshots. His face darkened. Page after page, his hands clenched tighter, his breathing grew heavier. And then he saw it, the comment that sexualized his relationship with his own daughter. A roar of fury exploded from his chest. Are you insane? These are my children. Do you really think I would ever? His voice broke off as rage consumed him. She refused to apologize. Instead, she turned it around. If you hadn't snooped around, none of this would have happened. The argument lasted for hours. My younger brother sat frozen, seething with quiet rage. My sister cried silently, shoulders trembling. Upstairs, my 3-year-old half-brother slept peacefully, blissfully unaware of the storm raging beneath him. And then my father made his decision. Without another word, he grabbed a suitcase, packed his clothes, packed his toddler's clothes. As he stood in the doorway, his youngest son asleep in his arms, he turned to her. I trusted you. I gave you a family, and this is how you repay me. Then he walked out. The tail lights of his car disappeared into the night, leaving behind the wreckage of a family that would never be the same. The days that followed were hollow, filled with unanswered questions. My sister, once so resilient, was left broken. Why does she hate me? She asked through tears. Am I really that much of a burden? My brother, consumed by rage, spoke of leaving, of transferring schools just to escape her shadow. And me? I no longer knew how to trust. The betrayal didn't just fracture our family. It made me question everything. And then, another blow. A private message. Someone from Reddit. Your story has leaked onto TikTok. Panic set in as I scrolled through the videos. Names were changed. Faces blurred. But the details, the essence, remained. The world now knew our story. And worst of all, SM knew. Would she delete her account? Would people uncover her real identity? If they did, what would happen next? My father, now staying at my mother's house, struggled with the weight of it all. On one hand, he despised her for what she had done. On the other, their 3-year-old son was still innocent in all of this. What kind of future are we giving him? He asked one night, voice heavy with sorrow. And that's a question that lingers. Can a family like ours ever heal? Or are some wounds too deep to mend? The answer remains unclear. But one thing is certain. Trust, once broken, is never the same again.